There's is. Hi everybody. How you doing? Y'all come on in. No readings today, so with no cards, no shuffles, no I heard, no I feel. So we're gonna get started. It'll be about an hour or so, depending on what the topics are doing towards the end of that hour. We'll start with announcements. Tomorrow, Jenn is live at 10 a.m. Central with Sacred Sounds of Coffee with Jody Roberts. It will be on Jody's channel, so y'all make sure that you go to Jody's channel to find that. You should be subscribed anyway, so there you go. And then
if you're not, if you go to my last video I did on my channel, there's a link in the comments to Jody's.
Wednesday, Lori and Danny will be live at 4 p.m. Eastern. So you make sure.
Sorry.
She will be live at 4 p.m. Eastern on her channel. And then Thursday, JoAnne will be live at 4 Pacific. And then Friday, we will be live once more and again with another soul chat at 7 p.m. talking about healing energy work.
Which is my favorite subject.
So hopefully I'll be joined by Jenn, Jody, and Lori, I think, will be on part of that one too. Right, I think, if she wants. So,
that's this Friday?
Yes. So the first topic I wanted to ask, we'll start with Jenn, we'll go to Lori, then JoAnne. What is God to you? If I say the word God, what is God to you, Jenn?
Unconditional love. It's an energetic thing for me, which is why when I do healing energy work, I'm channeling God's love, universal energy, chi or ki or whatever you want to call it. So it's an energy form for me.
What about you, Lori?
Creative source energy. Father, creative source energy and a soul connection. Creator soul love connection.
What about you, JoAnne?
I am with Jenn. It's for me, it's energetic source of energy, and it's pure unconditional love. And that's what we aspire to being, is having that pure unconditional love. So it's pure unconditional love.
And I'm with Lori too on it's a creative energy,
Mm-hmm.
I still, and maybe it's because of like the background of how I grew up, I still associated with it being like a creature, like an actual thing.
Like a person.
Yeah, almost. But it's like a light, and we come from the light. It's a thing, though. It's not like just for me like an energy that can be moved or pushed. It's like a thing that emits creation, that emits love, that emits purity. Since the light is pure, you cannot corrupt it. And so for me, it's still in my mind that it's an actual thing, that it's a creation type thing.
A source of light.
So the next one I want to go into, because we say this a lot, especially as readers, my guides. What does that mean? What does it mean when you say my guides? Jenn, we'll start with you.
For me, it is not a departed loved one. It is not an angel. It is a separate spirit energy. And it's I have a guide that has been with me since birth. And I have other guides that come and go depending on what I'm going through and what I'm learning, what they're helping me with. So I believe we have, many guides that come and go, but I feel I have a specific one that's been with me since birth. It's a higher vibration than a departed loved one, but it's a lower vibration than an angel.
Okay. Lori, what do you say?
I think it's my soul crew. Whether they are, I do believe that you could have a departed loved one if you have a sacred contract with them. Can be there, but they are an enlightened soul crew coming from a higher vibrational energy that give me signs and work with me
Okay.
intuitively.
If I could add, I do believe guides have lived on Earth or on a planet at some time, have experienced the evolution.
Now, Lori, do you feel as though they're familiar to you, or that they are separate and apart and just now a part of you? Like, do they feel familiar, as in you knew who they were, or?
I don't feel like I know who they are. Not
That you
all of
knew
them.
before?
No. And there may be a time where I feel like they're more present, like what Jenn said, where you're going through something. But it's a piece of, it's a soul energy, like the soul crew, you know? It feels like home energy. And you can hear them. It's though you're reading to yourself, so it's my voice.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like a soul crew that came to guide me and let me know when I got it right.
JoAnne, what do you say?
From my experience, I have my team, and a part of that team is my main guide. And I feel like for me, for my experience, when I was in the great universal collective and I decided to come back here on this planet and experience life, I created a contract with, I believe, someone who is vibrating at an energy to help me to get through my life path in a way that will work for me. So I think for me, it's somebody. I also agree that from my experience, they have had a human experience, so they're able to help and guide us through our experiences, our travels, or whatever we're going through. And I do feel like that particular guide, my main guide, is with me all of my life. And I do feel like I have other guides that come through my life depending on what I'm experiencing or where I may need help. Or, it's kind of like going to a special doctor for a special thing. You have your special guides for certain things. But I do believe that it's within my soul family that this particular guide is with me during this lifetime. But I do believe from my experience and the way that I work with my guides that I have that contract that we had prearranged before I came here.
If I could
Oh.
add one thing
Go
to my main guide, who I call Jeremiah, is he specializes in healing energy work. So he's like a master teacher. He's got an elevated thing with healing energy work, and so he's a little different from my other guides. Like I can tell, like he's like a little notch above especially when I'm doing energy healing.
So, because I want to ask, go back to Lori if I can. Because when I hear crew, I hear team, just like JoAnne. So I want you to answer this too, JoAnne. Do they have specific purposes, like Jenn was saying, that you have a guide for, and you have a guide for, and you have a guide for? Because my personal guides, it feels as though one is more of a teacher, and the other one is more of almost like an empath, where I need to I can put myself in a person's situation to help them better with whatever cards that I'm pulling. Because sometimes when you do tarot, the card is not concrete in its meaning. Your guide can give you something else. And then there's the gut instinct feeling that I get sometimes from a guide, to where you're not pulling cards, you get an answer right away type thing. So it feels as though they have like departments, like they work in specific areas. Do you find that to be true for you, Lori?
Yes, I feel also that I have a teacher guide, but I have one specific guide that helps me go through grief and very trying times when I was caring for many people. And so I feel definitely one for grief, one for teacher and spiritual enlightenment, and another that I think two that work with me when I'm doing readings and let me know when I've hit something right on the head with chills or a brush or a little brush in my hair, that kind of thing.
What about you, JoAnne? Do they have departments for you think?
So for me, the way that my team works is I have my main guide, who's like my overall director of my entire life. Anything that I come across or need help with, it's the go-to. And I have a very close relationship with that guide. And if I have problems, then I know that's my go-to guide for that particular situation that he sends out to the other guides that I have. And I know I have several other ones. And like you said, they all have departments that they work in. So if I need a special help in this area or that area, like one of the things I love doing, especially I think when I'm doing mediumship, I have a specific guide that is my channel for that. Or if I'm doing table tipping or any kind of physical mediumship, then I have a special guide for that. Or if I'm doing card readings or automatic writing, there's so many things that we do that I feel like we have other guides that will be an expert in that. And some of them cross over. So it doesn't always matter. Or sometimes another guide will come in that I haven't had a part of my team because I'm doing something that is new that my support team may not be as be an expert at like this other guide would be. So I feel like in the spiritual realm, they're so helpful and so close to us that when we have a need, they know who to bring forward or whoever that particular guide would be or that loved one would be, because loved ones sometimes can be our guides. So I feel like that's when they come in and they'll help us with whatever issue that we're dealing with. But I always have had a very close relationship with my main guide. And I really feel like you don't always have to know who they are. It took me a long time to get to know who that guide was because it wasn't the time for me to have a specific one-on-one knowing relationship. So it took me until I got older in life when I finally realized, okay, this is my main guide. And this particular guide has been with me through all of my life.
So I want to go here with that too. Now that you say that, is it important? I'll start with you, JoAnne. Is it important for your guides to have names?
I don't believe
give them a name.
Because if you think about it, names are for us. Names are for us to identify one another from. In the spiritual world, it's energy. So we're feeling the energy. So if you're sensing into your guides, you don't have to have a name for that guide. Like when I started realizing, and actually what happened, I was doing a show with a trance medium, and she was doing channeling for somebody else. And this guide finally came through because he wanted to get my attention and told me who he was and that it was time for me to know him. That was the way that this particular guide came through to me. So it took me, over half of my life to be able to understand who it was, but it was because I needed to go through my process of learning and go through the experiences of trust. Because really it goes, for me, I feel like it goes back to trusting your guide, where a lot of times we may know we have our guides, but we don't always ask them for help or interact with them or have a close relationship with them because we don't really trust it or believe it, or we haven't experienced it, or whatever the thing may be. So I had to go through my development to finally get to the point where I could know who that guide was, and then I can have a closer relationship because now I totally trust in that guide.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Lori? Do they have to have names?
I do know that I have a guy named Jala, but I do not know the other names of the other.
It's not important to attach a name to it.
Just to acknowledge that they're there.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Jenn?
I met Jeremiah when I was about 28. I had started automatic writing, and I said, "What do I call you?" It was more for me, so I don't have to go, "Hey, you," when I would try to connect. I needed something to invoke, and same thing with the angels. I don't feel like it's important that they have a name. It's a name I attach to the energy, so I know what energy I'm calling on.
Mm-hmm.
I've never given my names. It's more of a energy signature for me. I know who that is. Even though it sounds like my own voice, like Lori was saying when they're speaking, I guess that way. Because me, and we'll get to this one too, ancestor voice is audible. I can hear it out loud in the room. The first time I ever heard it, I was freaked out because they said my name out loud, and I'm like, there's nobody in this house. Either I'm tripping or something else is going on. So it's but The guides, it's more of a in your head voice, but I can tell when it's a different person because I have two, I think three, but I have two for sure, and then one for occasions when I'm trying to do mediumship, which I don't do all the time. And so that voice is a little different because it's slower. And so it's sort of like it slows down so that I can slow down. And so take my time and be a little more careful with what I'm saying and what I'm doing in that time. Because we read fast. And so I think a lot of people who book readings with us, they are surprised at how many questions that they were not prepared with, because it's like, okay, that's the end of my questions. Okay, well, it only took 10 minutes. So you still have a whole 20 minutes to go. But I do want to know, and we'll start with you, Jenn.
Hang on 1 second. My guide, Jeremiah, also, I feel like I've been with him multiple lifetimes. I don't think I've been with him just in this one lifetime. And whenever I've done past life regressions, he's there in between the lifetimes when I go to the in-between space, and then I go into another lifetime. So I feel like he's been with me a while. He's a masculine energy, but he gave me a name just so I didn't have to say, hey, you. And he's got a total sense of humor like I have. It's like, I'm like, what do I call you? So he gave me a name.
So do you feel it's important to be a successful reader to have a connection to guides? Because the reason why I ask this is tarot cards always say anybody can do it because it's like a map. If you put this card here in this position, it means this. So the magician will always mean skill and talent and blah, blah, blah. So if you memorize that, do you need a connection to a guide, even though they're already there and you automatically have the connection? But some people may not acknowledge it. I have agnostics who get readings and things of that nature to where they don't really acknowledge a higher self because they need proof of it. And so is it important, do you believe, that you have a connection and acknowledgement of the guides to be a successful reader?
I started reading when I was 19, before I opened up my clairaudience and was directly connecting into my guides and my angels. And once I opened up my clairaudience and mediumship and everything, how I read changed. So I read the cards a lot more literally, like I understood the meanings and everything, but it changed when my clairaudience, like I was reading the energy of the cards more, and it jumped out at me, the story it was trying to tell me more. So do you have to have? No. Does it make you a better reader? Yes, I think.
Lori, what you think?
I'm in total agreement with everything that Jenn just said. You can do a reading without your guides or that guide connection. However, you'll be a phenomenal reader when you can connect to that supportive, helpful energy.
And visions too, like he'll give me visions, or
Yes.
It's not just the clairaudience, like or a sense of knowing about something.
Yes, or a phrase or something that someone said that you're supposed to relate to the person.
Yeah.
What about you, JoAnne?
Well, I had an interesting kind of different thought on that question based on the fact that I don't think we're never not connected to our guides. So they're always with us. It's just our awareness to whether they're there or not. Like before I was connected to my guides, I would get information. I had no idea. See, that was one of my biggest problems when I was younger. I would say things because I was being inspired by my guides, but I didn't know that was what was happening. And so people would get mad at me because I'm speaking this truth and they're not liking what I'm having to say, because that was my guide that was with me, working through me. So I feel like they're always with us and they're always helping us. But I do agree that once you start having that connection to your guides and you now have a relationship, you totally, because what you were talking about, now you're becoming more clairaudient or you're becoming more clairvoyant. You're understanding a little bit more about what's going on than when you're not as connected.
Yeah, I agree. I think as far as can you be a successful reader, part of me wants to say no, because you do need a connection. Now, like JoAnne said, you already connect. I always say spirit doesn't leave you, even though we do the horrible of the politics and all that mess. Spirit didn't leave Donald Trump either. It's still there with him, whether you acknowledge it or not. It's still with you. So it's definitely not going to leave us. And we've done, like when I started reading, I was doing it by the book because I was doing memorization. And so I was laying out stuff, but I was getting an answer to the question. I thought I was getting an answer because I memorized the thing, but something was saying, this is what this means. This is what this means when you connect this to this. So something was helping me. I just wasn't acknowledging it because I didn't know nothing about guides and all this jazz when I first started, because that wasn't in the book. The meanings of the cards was what was in the book. Nothing about meditation and guides and all this carrying on. So, but I do think you do need it. But I also think it's already there because you're just a person. You don't have, I mean, you can, but you don't have that psychic power without a guide, I don't think.
You know, the one thing I think you do have to be able to do to be a good reader is get the ego out of the way, shift it. Because if that ego comes in, you know, whether you have the clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, whether you have any of the clairs or not, you're a vessel. It's flowing through whether you're consciously aware of it or not. But you have to be able to shift that ego out of the way, I think, to read. The filters. The filters.
I have a question with that. With that question, don't you think that's kind of like counterintuitive? Because if you're doing card readings, then you're already connected to your guides and going down that road to build that relationship. So are you going to be a better reader? Yes. As you progress, you're going to be a better reader, but you have to start from somewhere. So I think it's like just trusting that if you're already pulled to doing this, then there's a reason for that. And your team is helping you to get there, to open you up.
Yes.
That's what I feel like.
Yes, very much so.
So, okay. Do you have a process to communing with these guides? Because when I first started, I did not even know they existed and all this type of stuff until later on down the line. So is there a process that you can give maybe people in the chat who are asking, well, how do you even start? How do you know where they are? Is there a phone number? What do you call? What do you do? How do you talk to guides? Do you just start talking? Are they already listening? Or do they ever stop listening? Because there's some things I don't need you to hear. How do you start with talking to the guides? I'll start with you, Lori. How do you start?
By speaking out loud to them. And I also let them know when I'm going to start a reading by ringing my bell, or when I change the subject, change the question, I ring the bell again to clear and signal the beginning that I need their help. But I always ask for their help out loud. And they help me, by removing ego, they help me more with the right brain intuitive thoughts, and help me overrule the rational Judge Judy left side of the brain, but to answer your question, I ask them out loud. And I also tell them, for your information, just between you and I, when I get this card, this is what this means to me. So please help me only stumble across this card or see this card when this person is in this kind of trouble or for this meaning.
That makes sense. Jenn, what about you?
What was the question again?
How do you start talking to them, or how would you advise a person to even start talking to them?
When I was younger, I would just talk to them, ask them questions or whatever, and then I'd wait for signs. Like I would hear something on TV out of context of what was actually going on in the TV show, like a message was coming through. Turning on the radio and a certain song comes on and you get a message through that song, through the lyrics or something. They have a way of getting messages to you even before you open up that clairaudience. For me, doing automatic writing, that opened up my clairaudience because I got to where I heard them a fraction of a second before I wrote. Now I literally could stand in a rock and roll concert and tune in and hear them full sentences. Unlike departed loved ones, where it's a little more fragmented, with my guides, I can hear full sentences. It doesn't matter how loud the atmosphere is around me. If I set my intention and I'm tuning into them, I can tune into them anywhere.
What about you, JoAnne?
I think Jen really just said it right there. It's as simple as just moving your awareness from whatever you're doing to paying attention to what's going on around you, the atmosphere and hearing and, what are you feeling? So it's just your awareness. So what I do is I just shift my awareness. Right now, I think when I started, I didn't understand how it works. So for me, to talk to somebody who would be just starting to get to know them, it really is about trust. Like when I first started, when my guide would tell me something, I trusted it. I didn't second guess it or think I was crazy or whatever. I would trust it. And that was a process of learning. So the more that you trust your guide when they're talking to you, then the more they're going to talk to you, because that's like, calling your friend on the phone and you're talking and they're not, or vice versa, or, you have the separation. It's developing that relationship. But for the other thing that I did was just sitting with them in stillness and quiet, because I had to develop that awareness. So for me, just sitting in the quiet and not expecting anything, but just feeling them and feeling what they were doing around me and the essence or the energy that was going around me, then that helped me to have more confidence that they were there and trust that they were there. And then I would start seeing things that would happen, or they would tell me about things or answer questions. And so it's just that trust and that development like you would do in any other relationship.
I'm not personally like somebody that'll sit and go and meditate, like this for an hour every day.
Mm-hmm.
I love to meditate in the bathtub. That's where I do all my communication with my guides. So I'm like, here I am again, naked and in the bathtub, and communicating with my guides with my candles lit. But I get so much information from them when I go into that meditative state.
Mm-hmm.
Just that's my place. That's my special quiet place where I'm in the zone.
I think that's really important, because people think that you have to sit in zone, right?
Or sit in nature.
But for me, when I first started, it was just going out for walks. And then I would start hearing them. And, you think you're crazy because you're right. It's like hearing you talk to you. But when I would go out in nature, when I would just go out for a walk and not have all the pulls of the world, that's when I started hearing them more and more.
Yeah. Nature is a big communicator, I think. And like for me, like I'm an ocean person. I love to just sit and watch the ocean. It's meditative to me. And I'm just completely enthralled with that rhythm of the waves. And I'm going into an alternate zone. Like I don't see anybody on the beach around me. I'm in a different headspace.
That's me and trees. I get to walk in amongst some trees, and it's like it's like everything is quiet. I can hear. It's all nice. No electronics are on. So before we move on, though, from I got one more question on this in particular issue. Have you ever felt disconnected from your guides? I'll start with JoAnne. Have you ever felt like I can't focus, I can't think, I can't hear you even? Have you ever felt disconnected?
That's a really interesting question, because if we do feel disconnected, it's us disconnected from them. It's never them disconnected from us. And yes, I feel like even today, if I'm in a bad space, if I'm too stressed out, or if something's going awry that maybe I don't agree with or I'm upset about, then I'll shut all my systems down. The interesting thing about it, though, is I always feel the energy, because we have many different clairs. So you just tap into another one. So even if I'm not hearing them, or I feel like they're not hearing me, then I always still feel them and know they're with me. So I don't think that they disconnect from us, but I think that we could disconnect from them.
What about you, Lori?
I feel the same way with that. I know that I have become ungrounded, or I've lowered my vibrational level. So I will immediately begin a gratitude list so that I can bring it right back up to where it needs to be, because I fell down, or I just sank down a couple of levels and I need to go back up. They're there. They're always there. You're just tuned out.
What about you, Jen?
Yeah, life happens, and it distracts, and it takes our mind somewhere. So I always talk about relanguaging the brain. So for me, it's like if I start thinking about lacking something or fearing something or oh gosh, I got to move. I got to find a new home, you know, that fear or that lack. And it's like, wait a minute. I've always been provided for. Calm down, relanguage the brain, manifest it, bring it in, put it out in the universe. So it's just trying to slow down for me and shut the brain off for a little bit and relanguage it. So like if you have a fear of a lack of finances, or you have a fear of a lack of a roof over your head, just calm down a minute and say, okay, I'm making more money than I could possibly ever spend. I have a new home that I enjoy, that the energy is positive in, and you know, fake it till you make it until you can feel it, because you eventually feel it in your heart chakra when you pull that down from the brain. But you got to relanguage the brain first. And my guides help me get reconnected when I do that. When I have, you know, because we're all human, you know, whether you're psychic or not, it's like you're all human. You have something happens, and it's like, what is that?
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like if you were to picture like something plugged into me, or some sort of tubes of information or energy or something of that nature. And when my head starts dreaming up all the machinations and stuff that are not actually happening, it's like those tubes get a knot in it. Mm-hmm. And I did it. They didn't do it. My guides, my spirits, my angels, ancestors, they didn't do it. I put a knot in it because there's something in me that wants to freak out. And it's like, calm down, it'll be all right. And so that's my training ever since I actually moved to Pittsburgh, when I first shared my story about how I got here and none of my stuff did. And it's like, oh my God, what's happening? This is horrible. Called somebody, called anybody. I'm like, oh,
texting me from the airport.
I was in the airport and couldn't get on the plane that I wanted to get on. And I'm like, you can't freak out because then you get arrested. So you can't do that. But I was not in that space because I put the knots everywhere. And so my energy was cut off. It wasn't drained. It wasn't gone. It was just cut off because I put the knot in it because something in me wanted to freak out. And so I was indulging that need in that energy. And so that where my vibration was is in the freak out level. It wasn't here in the calm down. There's a solution to everything. No, it was like freak out now because for whatever reason, this is going to feed that fire, and then that fire is going to keep going, and then I'm going to be self-destructive. So eventually, because of the calm one here, I always do that. I pointed eventually at the right person there. I said, I'm at the airport, and then she said, find your happy place. Calm down.
In the airport.
I'm like, yeah, it will. And I start looking out the window, and then just like that, yeah, let's go.
And then you had the other lady that started texting you information.
And then one of the ladies, Lenny Marie, if she's ever in the chat, she started texting me, okay, do this, because she happened to work for the airline.
Yeah, your guide sent her to you.
So it's like, okay, I have solutions now. Once I actually calmed down and looked at my situation, there are solutions to these things. This thing here was delivered to somebody else's house, this screen back here. I'm like, when I first got here, I put basil all above the door, supposed to protect your house and all these type of things. And then I get this says delivered, and I walk outside and there's nothing there. And I'm like, son of a mother, somebody stole it. And so I had the freak out moment, and then I came up here, and then I like whipped out cards because I wanted to see where it was. And then I flipped over cards, and all of them looked blank. And I knew what that was, because when I look at my cards and they look blank, that means you are cut off from your information. Your vibration is not where it needs to be. So I'm like, okay, there's a solution to everything. So I put the cards away and called UPS, and UPS says she delivered it to the house down the street. And so I walked down there, and there it was, big as day, sitting right next to their door. Like, solutions to everything. So if you feel disconnected, it is you. Calm it down, look for solutions, and then they will be right there. They're already there. They just want you to shut up and listen.
They're going to smack you over the head to get the message. I always say the shortest prayer in the world is OF. You go, yes, what? Yeah, that's a short prayer. They'll come in like gangbusters if you just like take a second and breathe. For me, like to shift my energy if I start to get anxious, one of my favorite things to do, I find a video of Johnny's where he's had a 10-minute laughing fit, because smiling and laughing will change your energy like
Yes,
that.
it will.
And so if I start to get wired up about something, I go find an old video of Johnny's where he has a 10-minute laughing fit and watch it over and over.
Thanks to Lucky Girl, I have a whole file of them now. So it's
Great. Oh, that's great.
oh, mercy.
That's a great way to shift your energy. When you're down in the dumps, just smile at people. Just smile at a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
My father always said, always give the world your smile. You never know who needs it. So
Exactly.
lead with that. So let's shift to here. Do you believe in angels? If so, what is your concept of heaven? We'll start with you, Jenn.
I have always been a big believer in angels. I can remember at 4 years old climbing to the tops of trees and swaying in the wind and singing with them. So I've always been aware of angel energy. I wasn't able always to put, like a name to it or anything, because it didn't matter. And I do believe there's different hierarchies of angels, but I work a lot with the archangel energy. And especially Raphael. I have a very strong affinity to Raphael's energy. So I invoke Raphael, like whenever I'm doing healing energy work. I do automatic writing. I do channeling. I'll meditate with Raphael and talk with Raphael a lot. So they are just more unconditional love, and they're there to help steer us and guide us and show us and enlighten us a little bit and help us lighten our energy up a little, because we tend to get so heavy and weighted down by things in the world. I do believe there are other angels, like there's different hierarchies of angels, but I can get real swift answers, with angels. I get smells for different angels. I get, with Raphael, I get dragonflies, which is on my logo. I'll see dragonflies and usually in threes. I do work with Michael a lot. Zadkiel helps a lot with mediumship. Ariel helps with creative things. I mean, there's so many different angels that you can invoke for different things, or invoke all of them. But yeah, I'm big at manifesting with angels and just pulling their energy in. They want to help us.
Mm-hmm.
Lori, what about you? Do you believe in angels?
Yes. I believed in angels and the different levels. I've read a lot about them, and also feel like they helped me overcome some really difficult times in my life, especially when I was having bad dreams when I was a child. But I did, I had a very profound meeting with what I believe to have been an archangel when my daughter died inside of me. And they came to take her soul. And the angel appeared in front of me. I couldn't tell if it was female or male. And it was this overwhelming, overpowerful, molecular, energized. I don't like to say white, because it was more like
A glow, even if glow was a color.
Yeah, like fire glow, but not red. Like the brightest. I don't like to call it white. Anyway, but when it did that, when it appeared in front of me, I was just, I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I was timid, and they told me, it told me, please don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, but we need you to step into the light. So I stepped into the light, and I saw the light appear on the floor in front of me. And that's when I realized we were in the dark, even though it was light outside. I didn't realize we were in the dark. So I stepped into the light and became the light, and it transformed, like my feet, and I became the molecular energy. I don't know how to explain it, but so yes, I believe in angels very much. That's what I can do to make sense out of what happened. Yes.
Mm-hmm. What about you, JoAnne?
Oh, hands down, do I believe in angels. Since I was a little kid, I believed in angels. When I grew up in a family that was not very supportive, and again, I was saying things and new things and stuff that I didn't understand, and I wasn't really supported, there would be so many times where I knew that they were with me. And at one point I was really sick, and I knew that they were all around me that entire night. And then when I had my little kids, I got locked out of a car, and I, to this day, will swear that an angel had come because I was all alone. It was dark. I had two little kids, and I couldn't get back into my car. And he just appeared out of nowhere and disappeared out of nowhere and got me into my car. But one of the biggest things that happened to me was when I first started my biggest transition from Christianity to spiritualism. Big shift in energy, big shift in ways of thinking. And a friend of mine told me, let's go to Sedona. And so I did. And long story short, I mean, it was probably the worst time in my life. I had big changes going on. And we took a picture in Sedona of this cliff behind us. And right behind us was Metatron, Gabriel, and Michael. And you could see the outline in the picture of them standing behind me and totally supporting me. So I totally have always believed in angels. I believe that I agree with Jenn. They're this energy of just pure love and pure support. And they really want the best for us. And they help us no matter what's going on. I feel like our guides, they're always with us. And you know, we have certain ones. I do work more still with the archangels. I very much have a close relationship with them in the work that I do as well. And totally feel them and know they're with me constantly. And heaven to me is like an idea that people have, but in my feeling of heaven, it's around us all the time. It's just a different dimension than what we're used to. I feel like we're in this dense dimension and we only see what's physical around us. But because I know all of us have seen that, you know, the corner of your eye, when you look and you see something there, it's like you can see that dimension's always there. So I think heaven is around us, and it's what we make of it as well.
I also believe we have a guardian angel that's with us since birth, different from your guide, different from the archangels. I believe everyone has a guardian angel that's always with them. So, you know, if you're grieving and weeping, they're right there hugging you, holding you, and helping you through it.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your concept of heaven, Jenn?
Very much like JoAnne said, where it's right here around us. It's just a different dimension. It's a different vibration. I believe you can have anything you want in heaven. I believe anyone can go to heaven that wants to. Yes. So it's just their choice if they want to step into the light. And I believe that, you know, we can manifest whatever we want there. We can be anywhere in a thought, you know, in a flash. Yeah, it's right here, like heaven on earth.
Mm-hmm.
Lori, what is your concept of heaven?
The ultimate experience of love. Each soul emanating from a very high vibration of love, like that light that I was in. And I think it's around it. I don't think it's like, you know, like around the corner. I think the vibration has to go up and you have to go into the light. And I'm not sure how all that happens for everyone. So I'm still learning. I try to learn something, you know, every day. But it's the ultimate love feeling and caring for each soul, sharing, caring, and we become, you still have a separate entity, or you still have you're together with them, but you're still your own soul. But there's a sharing connection.
For me, because since I was so heavily involved in the church when I got older, when I was younger, my concept of heaven was shaped to be, you know, the golden streets and the crystal sea and the God on the throne thing. And I believed that until I got in the church myself as an adult. And then I thought, okay, it's more of a light. It's an experience. It's like you step in to the light, and then there's all the faces you once knew. And that's kind of my concept of it. As far as angels, I was never raised, and I did not really even acknowledge angels until I was in my 30s. Angels to me were like the servants of God. God was the thing that you needed to pray to. That was the thing you needed to commune with. That was the thing you needed to do whatever you were going to do. You didn't talk to angels. You talked to God. God talked to angels. And then he told them to do whatever it was that you needed to have done. Never was the concept of they're always around you, or it's almost kind of like if you needed them, your car's careening off the cliff. Okay, there's the angel. Not that they're just walking with you just to be walking with you. And so it's not until later on down the line, and I still don't have a close working relationship with angelic energy because it's never something I was taught to do. It's something I'm learning to do, but it's not something I was ever doing. It was always talk to God. That's who you need to talk to. That's your source. That's where you're going to get your answers and your whatever, and then he'll dispatch whatever he needs to dispatch. And I even still call God he. So it's more of an energy, but that's ingrained in my learning. And so that's kind of my concept of heaven and angels.
It's interesting because I feel like there's also different levels, different vibrations in heaven. So you may not hook up with mom and dad, if their vibration's a little different from yours, if they're a higher or lower vibration, if they've learned more, if they've had more lifetimes, so to speak, and they've learned more, they may be on a different plane. You can see them, but you don't always spend eternity with them, and I think same thing, if somebody has a lower vibration, you might see them when you cross over, but you don't have to spend eternity with them. They may have their own school where they're learning things and advancing their soul on the other side. And I may be more interested in learning something different. So I believe there's kind of different dimensions even within heaven.
Yeah.
Add one thing.
Yes, absolutely.
To expound on what Johnny said, I do believe in Father Creator energy. I very much do. And I also, partially because I read the Urantia book, I do believe that there are other sections of the universe that, we can go towards, visit, come back from. And there are different angelic realms and levels that would just, blow our mind if we really knew everything about it.
I agree. I still consider God a masculine energy because that's how it feels to me. Now, if it feels a different way to somebody else, I'm not taking that from you. It's just that for me, that's how it feels. And so not only is it just ingrained in me to keep saying he, that is how it feels. And that's one thing. Sienna, who was supposed to join us today, she had something to do, but she believes in that vibrational level because we always have a conversation about hell, and to where I don't believe in hell at all, but she believes in vibrational levels to the afterlife. Okay, so go ahead.
My interviewing style wants to come out here. So one of the things that I've been thinking about is the way that we're taught as kids, and we grow up and we have this belief system, and
it's like she's playing the guitar back there, G.
See, I don't believe in the devil either.
Okay, JoAnne, start over. What were you saying?
Okay, so my question is, or what I have been questioning is, energy is energy. But we're taught that there is male, female. Even when I'm doing a mediumship reading, I understand I have your grandmother here. She's a spirit of a family. But when we're dealing with other energies, they're energy, right? Or other things, they're energy. But yet we still put a label on it as masculine and feminine. but it's still energy. So do you think that there is that actual change in the spiritual world of female and male?
See, when someone presents like mother energy, when you're doing mediumship, I feel they're presenting how they were in this last lifetime.
Exactly.
Okay. They've had other lifetimes where they've been men. So I feel they're just presenting how they were in the most recent lifetime that you knew them in.
Right.
So masculine, feminine, like angels to me, they don't have, they may feel a little more feminine sometimes. Some may feel a little more masculine. Like Archangel Michael to me feels very masculine, but they're androgynous.
Right.
I say mother God sometimes, and I draw in that feminine energy because God's the alpha and the omega. He's everything. So if I want to feel more feminine energy, I call him the mother God, not the father God.
I believe that for angels, they are asexual. They have no male or female because they're just the angelic energy. But for everything else, I believe everything else has a sex. It's a male or a female as far as the energy goes. Because yes, they are identifying as where they were when they came here, but they're coming back here and they're going to come back here as something. And I think when you have a past life, you feel whether that was a woman or a man in that past life. And I think that energy signature goes with whatever that spirit was. And that spirit has come back into you, therefore they still carry that signature. So I think that I just feel as though if you do cross over, you still have that energy signature. You may be an energy. It's almost like you have a ball of energy and it's red. You would call it a red ball of energy. If it came back here and now it's in something blue, now it's a blue ball of energy. And then it goes back up, and then on the other side, it's blue. When it comes back down, it comes in something green. And so it's like you still have that signature, even though you're still energy. And I still think you have an identifying factor to that energy. But as you did say, it is still just energy. So, I mean, in the end, it doesn't matter. But I do think it has a male and a female.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. Are we both as energy, male and female?
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
So.
I think so. Absolutely. I think we all contain masculine and feminine energy. So the masculine to me is what puts you into action. It puts you, into a drive. The feminine energy is much more nurturing to me. It's more introspective and nurturing, like a mother.
Yeah.
So if you kind of think about mother father energy, to me that's like when I need to get something done, I pull out my masculine energy. I pull out that Aries. I got to lead. I got to charge. I got to get this done. When I need, when I'm taking my tub baths and my bubble baths, I'm in feminine mode. Nurturing my soul, whatever I need.
Okay, so my one of the last questions I have was, is there any misconceptions about angels, guides, ancestors, spirit guides, earth angels, whatever, that you want to clear up? That you think people, not necessarily, well, I won't say that people get wrong, because you can believe what you want to believe. Nobody's going to try to take it from you. But something that you may hear all the time that you may just have a different point of view on. I'll say it that way. Jen, we'll start with you.
Yeah, a lot of times in readings it'll come up like, oh, is my grandmother my guardian angel? No, an angel's an angel, and an angel has not lived on earth. So that's my feeling on angels. Like they are in that other dimension. They're at a higher vibration. They have not lived on earth, but they have observed us, watched us. They know what we go through. They can feel what we go through. So departed loved ones, I do not see as a guardian angel. Now, you may have, like my grandmother, Sarah, she's with me all the time, especially when I'm doing mediumship. If I'm trying to connect to somebody's loved one and I'm raising my vibration, they have to lower theirs a little on the other side to match, to connect to me. If they have trouble connecting, my grandmother, Sarah, helps pull them in. She helps. She's always right here on my right side when I'm doing mediumship. She may go away, other times, but during the day, she's always right here on my right side. I never knew her in life. She died before I was even born. So is kind of interesting, like who comes in, and helps you. Someone who wasn't nice in life is different on the other side. They've gone through healing. They've learned, they see things they could have done differently. So someone you didn't even get along with in life can be very helpful from the other side, and they're different. They see, oh, wow. I think we've all had lifetimes where we've been not the nicest people, and we've had lifetimes where we've been awesome spiritual leaders or whatever. So it's kind of a reminder to me, like, oh, they're different on the other side,
Mm-hmm. What about you, Lori?
Well, the question was about misconceptions about angels, and in the email it was about God too. Any misconceptions?
Mm-hmm. Any sort of spiritual misconception?
And I believe that the prosperity teachings that they teach are, like some of the mega pastors, and don't get me wrong, some of them I really enjoy listening to. Johnny knows I am a big fan of T.D. Jakes. But I don't feel that it's okay to, if there's one child that is hungry, we are off balance, and it is not godly for you to hoard your money over than what you need, because this person who is part of you needs your help. And so I think that, and so that's what I'm trying to say. It's not okay to just keep building that up. You're not in your correct vibration if that's what you're focused on doing, and teaching people that their money is going to be tripled if they do this and this, and you're not feeding this child.
Amen. Mm-hmm. JoAnne, what about you?
Wow, where to start? One of the things that I see a lot are people that like to give their free will away, their power away. And for all of us to always remember that we have complete control over what happens in our life, and that nobody else can make a decision for you. So to expect anything from the spiritual world to make a decision for you, or direct you in a certain way, or make you do something, or possess you, or take over you, is just not reality from my perspective. That they're there to guide us, and they're there to give us help, they're there to suggest, they're there to kind of lead our way, but they're not going to force us ever to do anything, because this is our experience, from my belief, in this lifetime, because we're here to have less, like Jenn had said, we come as different types of personalities in the many lives that we have lived, and they're all for a purpose of our learning and development, from my belief system. So to really trust that, even though we have people around us that help us, and we can talk to them and we can hear what they have to say, ultimately it's up to us to make the right decision for us, that we go forward with that in mind.
I think one other thing that comes up pretty regularly in readings, people have a misconception about, like, does someone who commits suicide go to heaven? Yes, right. If they choose to go into I believe everyone can go into the light if they choose. I don't believe in the devil. I believe there are nasty people that don't go into the light, and they're earthbound and do nasty stuff because they weren't nice when they were around. So there can be nasty tricksters. But I believe, yes, suicides, children, whether a miscarriage or an abortion or whatever, I believe they're on the other side. Sometimes they'll come back in, but sometimes they'll grow up on the other side. I've had that happen where I was reading for a lady, and I said, I've got your son here. He's about 30 years old. And she goes, he died as a baby. And I'm like, well, would he be about 30 now? And she's like doing the math in her head. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, he's grown up on the other side. So it's quite a relief, I think, for some people, because certain religions make you think if you commit suicide, you're going to purgatory or you're going to hell. No, if they want to go in the light, there's healing in the light. They're on the other side too.
That was good, Jenn.
I wrote some stuff down because I wanted to remember it all. So the first thing is, yes, you are psychic. Whoever you are listening to me, looking at us, yes, you are psychic. You may not be psychic the way everybody else is. No, we don't technically need cards, but I like them. I have 180 whole decks of them, so I like them a lot. And so I use cards. Somebody else may use tea leaves. Somebody else may read clouds. Somebody else may just read energy. Some people are the close your eyes and talk psychic. Whatever the case may be, you are psychic. You just need to find your lane. There is something you can do, something you are good at. Just try it. Start. You're going to be bad at it when you first start. You're supposed to be. You're learning to do things like me and cooking. We won't go there. God does not test, in my opinion, people.
Mm-hmm.
I've never believed that. That is something we were preaching in the church as well, is that God is testing you. You make sure that you are doing what you need to do to pass this test. As she mentioned suicide, some people have a really hard life and they don't make it all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
That is not God playing chicken with you to where, oh, I can't figure this out. I can't make it, so I take my own life. And then what does God do? Oh, well, I tried to make them tough. No, I don't believe God tests us. Life happens to everybody. And it just, sometimes it sucks. But I always say, be grateful for anything you have and everything you don't. There is somebody worse off than you. Reading, just like JoAnne said, is not an excuse for you not to choose. If you get a reading from somebody and you want them to tell you what to do, don't get the reading. Get insight from that person and then make your own choice. Because when you want them to choose, then you give your free will away. Why don't they just choose everything for you then? Let them give you insight. What should I do about my career? Okay, if you do this, this is the likely outcome. Okay, then maybe I can make decisions based upon that likely outcome, whether I would like that or not. If that's an outcome that I can live with, then let me continue on with what I'm doing. If not, then I can make changes. You can change anything. Nothing is set in stone except death. And even that's a little questionable sometimes.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. To me, a good reader will never tell you what to do with your life. And I run from like hell from one that does. And don't let anybody ever tell you you're hexed or jinxed or whatever either, because that's bull malarkey. I believe, getting a reading shows you opportunities. And gives you some clarity on things that you're going through. I don't believe a reader really should ever tell you how to live your life. And I certainly don't want to take on anybody else's karma. I got enough issues with my own.
Hate is human, but it is not holy. But you cannot be so heavenly bound that you are no earthly good. You cannot be so, if somebody asks you how you are, it is okay to say I'm okay. You don't have to be blessed and highly favored. It's sometimes okay to just be okay. I'm good. How you doing? That's good enough. God is okay with you not being blessed and highly favored every single time. I know you're supposed to give glory to God in all things, but it is okay to just be okay.
Everybody has low days and high days and in between days.
Yeah. Last one is talking to God. You can do it. You don't need a third party. You don't need sage. You don't need incense. You don't need to climb to the top of the mountain. Where you are, if you were in some sort of danger and someone kidnapped you and threw you in the back of one of those big white vans or something, are you going to say, hey, I need you to pull over because I need my sage because you're stressing me out right now? No, you're just going to start praying and then hope for the best. And as I say, God answers all prayers. Sometimes the answer is no. So thank you, Jenn. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, JoAnne. Let me do the announcements one more time.
I love this. This was awesome.
I would like to add one small thing.
Absolutely.
If I can. I do believe in evil. I've smelt it. I've heard it. And I just want to, everybody needs to do their own, do your own study. But I just wanted to say that it's there. I've heard it and I've smelled it.
I do believe in evil, but I don't believe in the devil.
Yes. So tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central, Jenn and Jody will be live on Jody's channel, Sacred Sounds of Coffee. And then Wednesday, Lori will be live with Danny at 4 p.m. Eastern. Thursday, JoAnne will be live at 4 p.m. Pacific. And then Friday, we will be back here for our healing energy talk, which will be quite interesting because we have 3 energy healers and they all do it differently. So that will be very interesting. And then Sunday, we will be live on Halloween. And I have a costume not costume, it's a t-shirt. I don't want to make you think that I'm about to put paint on my face and nothing like that. But I will be in character on Sunday. So thank you everybody who came out to watch. Thank you, Jenn. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, JoAnne, for joining me.
Thank you, Johnny, for having this conversation. It's a great conversation.
Thanks for hosting.
It was fun.
Yes, thank
Great
you.
idea.
So we will see y'all next time.
Much love.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.